Getting your first client. This is going to admittedly be one of those like you could do episodes, I think. For sure,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of options here, and I think it's going to really depend on what you like to do and how you like to run your business. But before we jump into the could do's on your first client, you cool if we take like 3 to 5 minutes to break down what I hope you have already done per se? Is that a fair starting ground, you think, Andrew?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Anything that you think I've done? What do you mean? Oh, like in the
No,
history?
no, no. Like, if you don't have a certification and you have no audience and nobody
Oh,
knows
for
that you're a
sure.
personal trainer and you
Yeah.
can't even train yourself and you've never done a bench press or whatever the things are, that there's just a checklist of things that you should probably have already done, which I think
Mm,
most of them we'd all get, we'd
sure.
all understand, but a lot of people that make
Mm-hmm.
assumptions in this world, us
Yeah.
included. So I think, from that perspective, maybe on
Yeah.
the knowledge and ability to create an outcome side of things, like what are the things you would say
Sure.
somebody should have already done before trying to get their first paying client?
Um, I mean, that's such a loaded question simply for the fact that there are so many different avenues for people to get paying clients, which is one of the reasons why I think it is so paralyzing for people to consider, hey, I have this passion. How do I actually monetize this? How do I start to see myself making this a career? And that's one of the reasons why, thinking about topics, this one really was at the top of the list. And when I think about table stakes or the price of admission, which is what my interpretation of your question is, I don't really think that there actually is a specific criterion list. Although I will say that for the sake of this conversation, we'll assume that you have a certification, you have a base skill set. The experience behind that, I will say, is highly variable. I've seen people that aren't certified, we see this all the time, that look a very specific way that get people to pay them for their expertise, which frankly, they probably aren't equipped to give. And from that perspective, it's like in the bodybuilding community, we see this a lot of time. You get like the bro coaches that, again, like they've maybe done a cycle or two, and maybe they've done their own competition or they've had a coach, and they think that that confers the ability for them to coach. And while that's probably a good experience, there's not really a great knowledge basis for them to learn how to apply that differently for different people that have different circumstances and starting positions. So I will say that I don't have a great criteria for that, but it sounds like maybe you have something in mind that, for the sake of your part of the conversation, people should be assumptively like interpreting that through the lens of.
Yeah, on that side, I do think the very
Yeah.
basic things, again, there's a lot of coulds that can come up in this conversation, and we could have a entire
Mm-hmm.
conversation around what should you do before you try to get a paying client. So, maybe a future episode, but
Mm.
having
Yeah.
a certification and understanding some of the basics in ensuring you're going to keep somebody safe is probably the ground level knowledge that I think somebody should have, right? Do you need to know everything? Have 82 million different certifications, all of this stuff? Absolutely not. I think that that's just a reason of slowing down and wasting time. So I think what you said is good. I don't think there's anything else I would add to that list. And on the flip side of things, I would say before you get a paying client, you should probably have worked with somebody that you were able to get a result with from a business perspective for free, most likely, before you start going telling the
Mm-hmm.
world that, hey, they can come pay you for these services. And if it takes you 5 people to get that one person that has a result, which by the way, I wouldn't say is actually a bad thing, because not all clients will get results because of you. And a lot of times it is because of them, which is still because of you, but different conversation. But I would say just go out and one time have gotten somebody a result that you can then go talk about. You understand that delivery experience a smidge, like you kind of get it because you've done it, before you start asking somebody for money to go do that same exact thing. If you got one person a result and I was the
Well,
first person, amazing. Time to go start charging some people. So that would be my side of things. And coupled within that is the assumption that if you've been able to get somebody a result, you probably have some pool of audience of people to be able to pull from and tell what you do, to share the stories, etc. So just get that one person a result, and then from there, I think it's kind of justified to go out and start charging something for your services.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, in that vein, there's obviously more depth and richness, and I love the fact that you bring up. There's another podcast topic in here. What should you do before you start charging clients? Um, and thinking about that for a second, obviously the experience is one thing. What about the individuals that have experience in their own journey versus the people that have no experience in their journey but do have a certification desire to do that as a profession?
I think it comes down to scope per se. If you've been through a journey in your life and you understand certain things very well, and
Hmm.
we're talking about giving some information in a practical way that's relatable to your life. If you want to go out and give some information to somebody and help them get a result, I'm not opposed to it short term, but long term I still think there's so many nuances and fundamentals depending, if you're going nutrition, if you're doing fitness, if you're doing overarching health, like there's such a wide array of opportunity to learn, or in other words, fuck shit up, that you need to go get some education around things in order to be better at your craft. Now, experience is big.
Yeah.
Understanding and navigating and being dumb enough to ask questions and knowing when you don't know the answer, like all of those things are key. And a certification gives you none of that stuff. And one certification will probably make you ask more questions about the world than answer questions that you had. So, are you actually smarter after one? Arguably, maybe not, but you should at least be qualified in some way, shape, or form to talk about the thing that you're doing and going through or teaching somebody else. So if you're going to go down the road of, hey, here's all the different ways you can do macros, I would have expected you to go through a program that talks about that. If you're talking to somebody about the 5 steps that you took to lose your weight on your journey, and that's all you do, I don't think you need a certification for that. As long as medically speaking, things aren't like outlandish and you're not sitting here saying you should be doing something that insert doctor, professional, or whatever should be recommending. Um, so
Hmm.
knowing that difference, but I still think some type of certification, even if it's a basic weekend course where you learn some things, if you're talking about it, is essential from a just a posterity kind of purpose, if you will.